Can everybody hear me? Good. Oh, I forgot my mask. So welcome once again to our meetings on Monday nights. Welcome, Dora. Good to see you. Good to see you, girls. Oh, girls. That's awesome. That's awesome. So hopefully the internet is fine. We're transmitting this live elsewhere. Last time I remember that Mariana checked with some friend to see if the audio was fine. I hope it is okay. I'm going to try to listen to it later on. And so as we usually do on every second Monday of the month, we have this English meeting, and where we study the Gospel according to Spiritism. We usually start with a prayer, then we have the reading of a message. Tonight, Nancy will read a message 129, right, Nancy? Yeah, so she will read message 129, make some brief comments, then I'll come back to talk a little bit about the Gospel according to Spiritism. Tonight, the following item of last month, which was patience. Tonight we're going to talk about obedience and resignation, which is item number 8 of chapter 9 of the Gospel according to Spiritism. So before we do that, though, let's do our initial prayer so that we can focus even more on the good things that we've been receiving from God, from the world, from the universe, saying as such: Dear God, our Creator, our Father, our Mother, our companion, our friend, we would like to thank you, giving you grace, giving you our most and deepest feelings of thankfulness, of gratitude for all the things that we've been receiving this life, but especially today, that we were able to once again walk upon this earth, work, be merry, enjoy life, be with friends, with our companions, all because you gave us life, the most precious gift of all. So thank you for allowing us to be here tonight to celebrate you, to celebrate the laws of life, the law of love that we are still learning to understand, and more importantly, to practice on our day-to-day lives. So help us tonight to understand the teachings so that within our hearts, within our minds, we can make them make sense to us so that we can learn to be better people. Once again, thank you for your blessings. Protect us tonight and give us your love now and always. So be it. So, like I said, Nancy will read the message from the book Our Daily Bread, 129, and I'll be back after her.
Good evening, everyone. The message tonight is the number 129, like you said, from the book Our Daily Bread, and the title is When He Broke the Bread. Then the two told what had happened on the way and how Jesus was recognized by them when he broke the bread. This is in Luke chapter 24, verse 35. The passage in which the Master is recognized by his disciples as they desperately marched to Emmaus, Emmaus is of great importance. Jesus was following them as an unseen friend, setting the truth in their hearts with warm, sweet formulas. During the greater part of the crossing, they were in the company of this wise, loving man. Both of them considered the stranger to be agreeable and generous. It was not until they were sharing the bread that they recognized their dear master. The two students had not been able to identify him, not by his words, nor by his affectionate gestures, but as soon as the bread appeared after it had been materialized, all their doubts disappeared, and they believed. Isn't this isn't this the same thing that has been occurring in the world for millenniums? Multitudes of candidates of the faith separate themselves from the divine service, for not having been able to achieve, after certain expectations, the immediate advantages that they had expected in everyday life. Without financial guarantees, without capricious desires satisfied, they do not partake communion in a respectful, faithful, and renovating belief. It is necessary to combat such short-sightedness of the soul. Blessed be the Lord for the lessons and testimonies He confers on us, but you will be very far from the truth if you seek Him solely in the division of the fragmentary and perishable assets. The, the passage they are mentioned here in the Bible is Luke chapter 24. And this part is really beautiful because it starts right after Jesus was killed. So Jesus was judged, she was condemned, and they crucified him and killed him. Then, after 3 days, it was a Sunday morning, some ladies went to the sepulchre to take a look on his body. They were bringing some perfume and other things to put in his body. When they got there, the stone that was blocking the door was removed. They entered there and they didn't see Jesus' body. Where is he? Where is his body? They just saw the linen clothes was there, but Jesus' body wasn't there. So they were like perplexed. What's going on here? Then two angels appeared around light and shining garments and started to talk with them. And said, the ladies were Mary Magdalene, Joanne, and Mary, Tiago's mother. So then I put between quotes because I want to read exactly what the way is saying in the Bible. But this angel starts to ask them, Why you guys are looking for him between the dead? He's not dead. He's alive. And he's not here because he's risen. Remember how he spake unto you when he was yet in the Galilee, saying, The Son of the Man must be delivered into the hands of the sinful man and be crucified, and the third day rise again. And they, the ladies, remembered his words. So the angels talk with them and say, Hey, do you remember what Jesus said? Do you guys remember what the prophecy was talking about him? So they were like confused, and at the same time they believed because they saw the angels. The ladies went back with the apostle and other people and tell them, and they said, You know, guys, we went there, his body is not there, he's gone. And people looked to them and said, What are you talking about? So right after this angel told them the situation, they disappeared. So the lady said, Wow, they were angels because of the garment, brilliant because of the light around them, because they appear and disappear. So they said they are angels. Some people, most of people didn't believe them. And Peter decided, you know what? I will go there and take a look on my own. So they went there. No, Peter went there and he took a look and he saw exactly the same thing what the ladies told to them. Okay, so maybe they thought, woman talk too much, but it was true. So then, two guys, the name of one is Cleopas, and I don't know the name of the other one. They just mentioned as a friend of him. They live in another place, another city called Emmaus. In Portuguese, Emmaus. All right. So this place is their home. And they said, You know what? We are so sad. Jesus is gone. He's dead. The ladies told us about this, but we don't know if we believe or not. You know what? Let's go back home. And they start to walk. From Jerusalem to this city was around 10 to 7 miles. Okay, they were so sad and talking about, oh my God, what we are going to do now. Jesus is gone. And oh my God, I can't believe this thing happened because he was our guide, our master, our everything. So what we are going to do now? Then a man approached them and started to talk, Hey guys, what you guys are talking about? And then those those guys said, Well, where you come from? You don't know what happened with Jesus? Don't you know that they crucified him? Are you a stranger here? So because everybody knew what happened. And this guy was Jesus, but they didn't recognize him because he was dead. How could he be there between them? And then Jesus said again, But okay, let me know what's going on. And then they start to say, Well, it was Jesus. He was between us. They killed him, blah, 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 and told the whole history. Then they were, walking and then got there, their house, and Jesus were keep going. The guy said, You know what? The day is gone. It's better if you come with us, stay with us tonight, and then tomorrow morning you go ahead your way. And Jesus said, Okay. When Jesus sat with them on the table, they brought the bread And at that time was usually when they receive anybody visiting them, the visitor should do the prayers. So then they said to him, "Oh, can you do the prayers?" When Jesus took the bread and raised his hand, they saw on his hand the holes. He took the bread, he did the prayer, he broke the bread and gave to them. And then, just on this moment, they realized it was Jesus. And Jesus disappeared. So I'm talking the whole passage because in our life, many times we we are having problems with our personal life, with our family, our job, or whatever. And actually, Jesus is right there, walking with us in our way, but we don't recognize him. Most of the times, we don't recognize him. And he could be there as your friend, as your parents, as your kids, as anybody else, or in a situation. And the I think what this message wants to bring to us is I I made a sentence here. When we look, when I look, let's say it this way, when I look to my life with my eye on the tragedy, on the sad way, or on my affliction, or on my problem, I don't see Jesus. And I think this passage came to let us know that Jesus is right there, right beside you, right beside me. He is walking with us in our way. Only thing we have to do is believe and realize he's right there. We are not walking alone. Guys, if you guys have a chance, I recommend to take a look on Luke chapter 24. I read the whole chapter. It's really beautiful, and I hope you guys like it. This is what I understood from this passage. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy, for the beautiful message. Just to remind everyone, 129, Our Daily Bread, chapter 24 of Luke, right? So everybody can read it later. Like Nancy said, is very beautiful, and it's worth uh, reading it. The talking about Luke, I gonna start by I brought three books here tonight. One is the Bible in English. One of the covers. This is the New International Version translation. The other book that I brought in is Paul and Stephen by Chico Xavier and Emmanuel, and the other one is The Gospel According to Spiritism. One of the covers is here. And why am I going to mention Luke is because, and I don't know if you know this, but I'm going to start by saying it. We have four Gospels in the Bible. Well, we usually talk about them: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. These are the four Gospels in the Bible. Then we have one special book that's named the Acts of the Apostles, which is the story or tells the story of what happened after Jesus died. within that community of the first disciples, the first apostles. And that's where we find, for example, the story of Paul, Saul of Tarsus, and Stephen, and more stuff from John, from all the other disciples and apostles. There's a lot of information in Acts. Then we have the letters or the epistles from Paul, from John, from Peter, from lots of other letters that were written and sent to communities, to people, to friends, talking about Jesus, talking about his teachings, and so on. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because as the Gospel of Luke finishes around right after 24, Luke is the one that writes the Acts of the Apostles. So it is as if it's a second Gospel of Luke. So he continues the story, right? We usually know Matthew went where Jesus dies, Mark as well, John as well, but Luke continues the story, keeps telling us the story. And it's the same style of writing of Luke, and that's how we basically know that that's what happened. And we also know that because he is telling the story of Saul, of Paul, of Stephen, and all that stuff, and he was one of the followers, he was there with Paul in some of these stories, Paul gave him notes on what to write. So he writes these stories based on what Paul discovered when he was traveling, when he was going on. So it is very interesting. Paul and Stephen is, well, this book here, Paul and Stephen is, some people call it like, when we watch a movie, and then after the movie ends, there's like on the extras of the, well, what now is old defunct DVDs or Blu-rays, we used to have the extras, and then the extras would have behind the scenes, so we would see what was going on behind the cameras, how bloopers and mistakes that the actors. So they say, some people say that Paul and Stephen is kind of behind the scenes of what the Acts of the Apostles are, because we have much more information about the things that happened, at least in terms of Paul and Stephen. Of course, the Acts is a much bigger book, has much more stuff, but with regards to Paul and Stephen, the book itself has a lot more information about the things that are said in the Acts of the Apostles. So, but also, why am I bringing this up, right? The topic for tonight is obedience and resignation. That's the title of item number 8 on chapter 9, which is blessed are the meek and the peacemaker, which, as Nancy said, I highly recommend you reading afterwards, because I'm not going to talk about a lot of stuff that might be here. And the text is 1 page long only. It's a very quick text, and it has a lot of stuff in it. By the way, I remember last time I was here, when talking about patience, I said that in patience, in the text about patience, there was a sentence, phrase that I loved, and I remember talking about it later on. It's when he says, this friendly spirit talks about, we being pricked by the needles, like very tiny ones, and then after a while you'll kind of explode, because it's just one small thing, but when you put like one small thing lots of times, it really explodes. This next item here, there is this sentence also that I remember it all the time, and I really like this sentence, which says, and I'm going to get to it later on, but I'm going to say it from the start. It says, the spirit of Lazarus, which writes this message, he says, obedience is the consent of reason. So when you obey, it's because you agree with your reasoning. Resignation is the consent of the heart. So when you are resigned, when you don't fight against what's happening to you, and even if you understand or if you don't understand, but it's when you agree with it with your heart. So obedience is when you agree with your mind. Resignation is when you agree with your heart. So it is kind of the same thing. And I love this sentence. I love the way he puts in this feeling into words. And I hope that I am able to make you guys understand what I am thinking when I'm going to talk about this, and by using the example of this guy, of Paul of Tarsus, of Saul of Tarsus. Um, and that's why I said that I'm not going to focus too much on the text of the Gospel according to Spiritism. So that's why I ask you to read it later. Um, because I'm going to kind of tell the story of Paul and Saul, or Saul and Paul, so that we can kind of understand a little bit what it is, um, this idea of obedience and resignation. Saul of Tarsus, he was a man of three worlds. He was a Jew, so he followed kind of the same thing, or I say kind of, but it's not kind of. It's he followed the same thing that Jesus followed. He was born into a family that was a practicing Jew. He was raised like Jesus in this religion, in Judaism. That's what he was. He was even further, or educated even more than what Jesus was. He was as we call the Pharisee, which is kind of being born in a family of priests. So say your father or my father or your father, your mother, she or he was a priest. He was the head of the church. So it is as if Paul was born in a family as such, and he was going to be raised, and he was raised to one day become a priest. So he would go to school to really learn the religion, to really understand the religion. That doesn't mean that he is religious or that he is a good person, because it's not religion that makes a person good. It's us taking the teaching and doing something with it, right? But that's one of his worlds. He is a religious man in that sense. He was raised a Jew. He was a Pharisee. He was a Roman. He was born under the Roman world, right? So he has this Roman possibilities. He is a citizen of Rome. Everybody here knows what is to be a citizen of a country, because of all the situations that we've been through, or that we are still going through while living here, right? You have certain rights and you don't have certain rights because you are or you are not a citizen. For example, to be a citizen of this country does not necessarily mean, for example, that you can be president of this country. You have to have been born here to be a president of this country. By being a citizen, you can be a governor of a state. Let's remember Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was governor of California, and he was not born here. But he could never become a president of the United States. Why? Because he was not born here. So citizenship and being born in that place signifies a lot of open doors for you. So Paul was a Roman, so he could go anywhere. No one had the right to stop him for doing nothing, different than other people that were not born or were not Roman citizens. So he had this power. So he had the power of religion, he had the power of being a Roman, but also, while he was growing up, he was educated in the Greek side of things. And that's where his third thing comes. And the Greeks, after the demise of Greece taken by Rome, they Rome what Rome used to do was Rome would conquer other places, but Rome, one of the good things that Rome always did, he they never, or almost never, right? We say never, but we should really say almost never. But this would never destroy the culture of the places where they would go into. They would embrace as most as they could the culture of the place. So Rome would allow and would take whatever Greece was able to give to them. And Paul was educated in Greece as well, in Greece culture, in Greece philosophy, in Greek culture, Greek arts. So Paul was actually Greek, Roman, and Jew at the same time. And not everybody was, which allows us, or allowed him, to really have this big comprehension of the world. He would see things in three different perspectives. So he would have all this knowledge in him. Of course, he was not the only one, but he was proud of having that. He was really proud of having that. Who wouldn't, right? I was educated in Greek philosophy. I am a Roman citizen, and I also know the main religion of the world that we know. So I know the religion of the Romans. I know the religion of the Greek, which is basically philosophy. Rome got most of their philosophy from what Greek gave them, for the Greeks gave them, and then they embraced, kind of, but it's like a second choice, Judaism. But Paul was of these three, and he knew basically everything that we could learn at the time. So he was full of it. And his reasoning was, as we say it here, top notch. Basically, no one could face Paul in a discussion. Basically, no one. He would win over arguments with other people, like with nothing. And that's who he was, because of the amount of stuff that he had inside his head and the passion with which he grabbed those teachings and was able to put it out in words and really affect the lives of other people. That was Saul. He was born in Tarsus. That's why his name is his name. We know him by Saul of Tarsus. One day, he meets this guy named Stephen, which is the name of the book, Paul and Stephen. And I'm not going to tell the whole story. I'm just going to focus in Saul and when he becomes Paul, because the name of the book is Paul, not Saul. I'm talking about Saul first. So he meets this guy, Stephen, after hearing that this guy is kind of like teaching some stuff that are taking people from Judaism, and he doesn't like it. He loves and he wants to protect Judaism. And every single person that attacks Judaism to some degree, he says, this is wrong. We cannot allow this. If we allow this thing to grow here, our religion will be destroyed. So we have to make them stop. And he is hearing about this, and he's hearing about people like curing or healing other people. Like he heard about this guy, this Nazarene, which was a carpenter that was like had a bunch of followers, and now is this Stephen guy, which is like he says, I want to go where he is, so I want to see what he speaks, what he says. He goes there, and he like kind of gets very surprised by what he sees. He sees people sick. He sees people like without, with clothes all like poor clothes and really ripped, and like a place where there is almost no covering, and it's a very like bad place to his standards. That was the house on the way. That's what it was called, the place where the disciples or the apostle of Jesus would reunite to talk about Jesus's messages. He sits down and starts listening to what Stephen has to say. He is completely astonished by what Stephen is saying. At the end, when Stephen stops speaking or finishes his arguments or whatever he is teaching at that moment, he starts to question Stephen about it. But every question that he asks, Stephen goes one step further than the question that he asked. He not only answers the question, but he goes one step forward, which we understand by reading the book that it is as if Paul had never found anyone that was able not only to answer his questions, but to make questions in his mind, make him question what he is listening, and make him question his beliefs. But he is the kind that does not, I don't know, a similar expression. Well, there's I'm thinking in Portuguese here, that's why the confusion. But he doesn't like when he has his arm twisted, when someone gets his arm and twists his arm, because he is like, he doesn't know what to do. So he gets angry and he starts like yelling. He starts by, and Stephen says, hey, we're not here to discuss. Whatever you asked, I already answered. I'm not going to be arguing with you. We have more work to do. And then Stephen, just like very calmly and peacefully, without any hint of anger, he just stops. And he goes and goes do something else. A woman comes to him, and at this time, Stephen asks in prayer that Jesus can do something for her, because he cannot do anything for her. And all of a sudden, the woman gets better. So this is the part of the scene. You may read the book so that you can have a little more of this part. Saul takes that whole scene in his mind, and he decides that he will persecute now Stephen, that he will go after Stephen, because he spoke falsely against Moses, spoke falsely against God, and he even used like wizardry to cure someone, which was not allowed by the law. So he decides to go after him. And now I stop, and I'll go back to Saul again, but an earlier Saul. Saul was educated by a man, which is his name is, I don't know how I would say it. It's called Gamaliel. I don't know how to say it. I never heard it in English. So Gamaliel, he was the disciple of this guy's in church. This guy was a very calm person, a very merciful one. He would never harshly judge anyone. He would never say harsh words to anyone. He was always of the kind of being a peaceful man. Saul, on the other hand, was like that horse that no one can control, has all this power, all his might, all his youth, and every time somebody talks to him, he talks back and he fights back. Gamaliel is, on the other hand, the other way around. He's always calm. He's always asking Paul to think more, not to act so impulsively, and so on. Always doing that to Paul, but Paul never listens. Paul finds Stephen, which is exactly the same way as Gamaliel. Paul falls in love before meeting Stephen. He falls in love with a girl called Abigail. How is Abigail? The same way as Gamaliel and as Stephen. And Paul is the other way around. I don't know if you already kind of guessed where I'm going with this. Paul is circled by a group of people that is trying to show him something. That is trying to show him that he is fighting against something that he shouldn't be fighting against. But no one is actually saying this to him. They are just behaving differently against the way that he is. And he doesn't understand it. He doesn't get it. He is, and now I'm entering here in a territory of words that I really don't know. I never heard these words in English. Even in Portuguese, these are not words that are very common in our vocabulary. We don't say them very frequently. And I'm going to say it in Portuguese and I'm going to say it in English. Recalcitrar. In English is easier. It's kick against. Everybody knows what is kick, right? And against something, right? Against something. So if I'm kicking against something, I'm recalcitrating. Eu estou recalcitrando. I am fighting against something. That's what this word means. The other word is aguilhão, which we have in mind because it looks at and it sounds like another word, which is agulha, which is needle, right? So we kind of have an idea. So we have, and I don't even remember the word in English. That's why one of the reasons why I have the Bible here, because it's a word that I really never heard before. It's a goad, G-A-O-D, goad, pronounced as almost the same. I'd say to me is the same, but I don't know if it's the same as gold, right? It's gold and gold, almost the same. So gold is like a needle, right? Something pointy, which was used when you have a cow, not a cow, but an ox that is carrying some stuff. And then they would put these goads behind them so they don't kick against it. They move forward instead of moving back. They don't stop. And if they kick it, these needles will, of course, will hurt them. And then they won't keep doing it. So that's where the expression comes from. Kick against the goad. So if we want to move forward, we shouldn't be kicking against the goads. Otherwise, we will get hurt. And at one point, we won't be able to move forward or back. Everything will be hurt, and I'll be hurt, and nobody gains. No one wins the situation. After Saul fights and kills Stephen, Abigail dies. It has some relation to what Saul does, but Abigail dies of sickness. she gets sick and dies. But he had abandoned her. I don't know if you guys read the book, but if you didn't, I highly recommend the book because um, it is a good, as we call it, a good novel just to read for pleasure, just to read it. It is a very interesting story in and of itself. Uh, but also, it is a book where we can stop and study. We can stop and read more and more and more into each passage. That's what we are doing here on Wednesday nights. We are halfway through the book now already. We do it in Portuguese. But there's so much into this story. There's so many details that where we can meet these guys and we can learn from them, from the things that they did right and from the things that they did wrong, which we all go through this, and we can learn from their mistakes and from the good things that they do, from the right things that they do. So at this moment, when Abigail dies, she tells Saul at this moment, look how I am. I am so much in peace. But I'm using my words. She doesn't say these words, of course, but look how I am. You shouldn't be doing what you're doing. I found my peace. Why can't you find your peace? And that's one of the things that he keeps thinking all the time. And when he thinks about Stephen, which was killed because of him, he was persecuting Stephen. He found a way to prove that Stephen was guilty, and he was condemned to be stoned to death. And Paul was there watching him die, because that's what he wanted, and he had the power to do. Stephen died. Abigail died. Gamaliel disappears from his life because Gamaliel moved away. Now he is kind of alone. But all those things that people told him are in his mind. But he is doing what at that moment? He is kicking the goats. He is fighting against what is coming to him to tell him, don't do that. If you keep doing it, you will hurt yourself even more. So he doesn't want to be obedient, and he doesn't want to be resigned. He doesn't agree with it, not with his mind and not with his heart. Obedience and resignation happens when we, and that's where I'm going to use this sentence, obedience and resignation hit us when we, for whatever reason it is, in the case of Paul of Tarsus, was that he kicked so many times these goads. He fought so hard against this message that was coming to him that he got tired. And he said, almost to the point of, let me see what is this that you want me to see. It happened to him when one day, and that's on chapter 9 of the Acts of the Apostles. That's why I wanted to cite the Acts of the Apostles, that Nancy was talking about Luke, and I made the jump to the Acts. That happens when he is going from one town, from Jerusalem, to another town called Damascus in Syria. And he was traveling from one town to the other. And when he was almost there in Damascus, one day, or around noontime, he sees a light that's lighter than this, that's brighter than the sun. And he falls from his horse, and a voice that he doesn't know whose this voice is from asks him, Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me? At that time, this message that Jesus asks him, or this question that Jesus asks him, why do you persecute me? Is when you have a glass full of water and then you just put one more droplet and then a bunch of water falls. It was just the last droplet that needed for the cup to overflow. He couldn't take it anymore. He realized at that moment that he was sore from all the fight that he was putting. Not sore on the outside, but sore on the inside. He couldn't find peace because he was fighting against what the world was telling him. The loved ones were telling him at the time. He was shut down in his own world. He didn't want to listen. He was so self-centered as if he didn't need anybody, as if he was his own world. But at the same time, he needed Abigail, and now she died. At the same time, he needed Gamaliel, and he moved away. He didn't know that he needed Stephen, but he killed Stephen. He didn't know all of this, but at the same time, he knew all of this. But he was fighting against it because he could not find that peace. And he was envious of the peace that Stephen had when he was about to die. Stephen was dying, his body completely broken, totally broken. And he looks at Abigail that was right there at the time with him, because Abigail was Stephen's sister. Who is going to take care of you, Abigail? He asks her. Who is going to take care of you? And she looks at him and he says, this, and points to Saul, this is my fiance. The guy that's killing him. And she doesn't know it. They didn't know it until that moment. Oh, he is a good man. He will take good care of you. That's what Stephen says, being killed by the same person. That's what he says about him. And he says, he is a good man. He defended the law of Moses until the last minute. I wonder what he will be able to do when he knows Jesus. So it is, Paul or Saul at this moment doesn't know yet what is this peace that Stephen found. And he is kind of, how come this guy is dying? And he has this much peace inside of himself. How can he have that? He doesn't know it. But why doesn't he know it? Because he cannot stop and really accept things that are coming to him. He is not obedient. He is not resigned. He wants to do what he wants to do. To me, in the Lord's Prayer, which I don't know by heart in English. I know it in Portuguese, grew up saying it, but I don't know by heart in English. But there's a moment in that prayer when Jesus teaches us that he says, he asks us to say, or he says, right, for us to accept what God is sending us. He says, thy will, your wish be done, not mine, your will. That's what Jesus teaches us to say. How many times do we really feel that in our lives? Something happens to us that we are not expecting. When it's a good thing, we think it's deserved. Usually. Not all the time, I concede. Some people really think, oh, I shouldn't have happened to me, could have happened to someone else. But when it's a bad thing, it's very rare that we say, oh, it happened because it needed to happen. We ask the other way around. We ask, why with me? We don't accept it. Our mind goes right to that thought, oh, I don't deserve this. So if I don't deserve this, then who deserves it? Then I will think about a lot of people who deserve it. I'm pretty sure that I'll think of a lot of people who deserve it. But me, no, I don't deserve it. So why do we say it then in the Lord's Prayer? Thy will be done. We are saying it just from here to here. We're not saying it from here. Because we still didn't learn to obey and to be resigned. To accept what the world is trying to teach me. And to be resigned and to obey with reason and with heart, it's not to be stuck and not do something to change what's happening. No, there's nothing to do with it. Jesus, when he's at the cross, he says, he asks, right? And we know this quote. I mean, we heard this quote so many times. Lord, Lord, why have you forsaken me? Right? Senhor, Senhor, por que me abandonaste? But this is the beginning of a psalm in the Old Testament that he was about to recite. These psalms didn't have titles, so they were known by the first verse. That's why he says it, because this is the first verse of a psalm. But the psalm doesn't talk about abandonment only. It starts talking about abandonment. But it doesn't, that's not the main message of the psalm. The main message of the psalm, at least to what I can get from this from what Jesus is saying, is although it looks like you abandoned me, this is what I need to get for me to do what I need to do. Every kid complains when a parent gives a task for them to do. Every single one. And they will complain, and they will say that their parents are bad people, that they hate their parents. But you better give it to them as a parent, because they need it. They don't know that they need it, but they need it. That's when, and thinking about this child, and thinking about me as a parent, but now thinking about me as that child, and thinking about what I'm getting from whoever, from God, whatever the name I want to give it, from the universe, that's my teaching. And if I'm complaining, it only shows, at least to my understanding, that I am still a child. That I still am not able to understand what my father, my mother want to teach me. When Paul doesn't want to listen to everyone that's around him, but decides at that moment when he falls from the horse And Jesus asks, why do you persecute me? His answer, well, and then later on in this, when Paul recounts this story, because in the Acts of the Apostles, there are three moments where Paul counts or tells this story. At a later time, when he tells this story, he says this sentence that I told you that I didn't know the words, that Jesus told him. That's Acts 24, no, 26. Acts 26, item number, I need a longer arm. Do you have a longer arm there? He says, we all fell to the ground, and I heard a voice saying to me in Aramaic, which is a language at the time, Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me? It is hard for you to kick against the goads. It is hard for you to kick against the goads. Why do you persecute me? Why are you kicking against the goads? Why are you not accepting the teaching that is being given to you? And that's the question, not to Saul, but to us. When will we learn? And that's a question, a real question for us, for each one of us to think about. When will we learn not to kick against the goads? We can fight to improve our lives, but not to kick against the goads. Accept the major idea of what's going on with me and work to improve on that. Say, for example, just to go and finish the night, we have a disease, whatever it is. Say a small or a big disease. Say I have a friend that he says that he loves bananas and he loves apples. But whenever he eats bananas and whenever he eats apples, something bad happens to him. He either has to throw up or something starts to happen. And it's these two fruits. But he loves bananas. What do you do? If I eat bananas, I'm gonna suffer. If I don't eat bananas, I'm gonna suffer. Which side do I choose? Is eating bananas trying to teach me something? It's for me to find out. I cannot say what you do or you don't do. It's my choice. I just have to learn to deal with it. I might decide to take a pill. I might decide to eat less banana. I might decide to whatever. It doesn't matter. I don't need to accept it as is, but I need to understand and to feel, to be resigned to some situations that I cannot change. And the ones that I can change, fight to change it, but not to be kicking against the goads. Otherwise, I will not learn. I'm just with this revolt growing inside of me because God is giving me this, or God is giving me that, or I have this disease. Why do I deserve this? Why me? Why not my neighbor? Why not? Obedience and resignation is something that we come upon with time, but we have to learn to observe the signs of the world and look at them and say, what are these signs telling me? How should I behave better? I see and I saw so many complaints, and I still, it's been a while, never talked more about this, but people say, oh, I go to this place and then there's this person is a bad person. This person complains, that other person complains, and there's a problem here, there's a problem there. And then I ask myself, okay, everywhere you go, you find a problem. Who is the problem? Right? It's like the guy that goes to the doctor and he says, "Oh," the doctor asks him, "Where does it hurt?" And he says, "Oh, it hurts everywhere." And he says, "Oh, really? Yeah. Point to me." It hurts here, and it hurts here, it hurts here, it hurts here, it hurts here, it hurts here. And he says, "Let me take a look." And he grabs his hand and he does this. And he says, "Oh, it hurts." Yeah, that's where it hurts. Well, everywhere hurts. So it's not the body, it's the finger, right? So it's not everywhere, everybody. It's not everywhere. It's me. I have that problem. If I go to a certain place and I have the same kind of issue there, it's not that that person has an issue and that they might have their issues, but I certainly have mine. And that's the one that I can take care of. Like Shirley says, did it hurt? Take it. It's yours, right? If I have a cut in my arm and I pour some alcohol on top of it, it will hurt. But if I don't have any cut and I pour alcohol, it will not hurt. So it's not alcohol that makes it hurt. I have a cut. So if it's hurting in me, if I have a problem with resigning myself and understanding the problem that comes to me, it's not the problem that comes to me, it's me. I still have to learn how to deal with the problem. Because some other people have the same kind of issue in their lives and they're just living fine with it because they learned how to deal with it. So if I didn't, I have to try to find a way to deal with it. I'm not saying that's easy. I'm not saying that's easy. I'm saying that it's possible. I'm saying that we can, that we have the capability of doing it. That people that are as big as Saul did, but people that are as unknown as some friends of ours, some people that live by us, learn how to do it. So anyone can learn, but we need to apply ourselves in learning. We need to focus and do it. Nobody learns to be a doctor in one day. Nobody learns to clean a house, to do whatever in one day. You learn with experience. You learn with doing and making mistakes and doing it again. That's how everything in life works. Why would it be different with obedience and resignation? There's no sense in it. So with the teachings of Paul and Stephen and Abigail, and this is just like a brief 40 minutes talk about Stephen and Abigail and Stephen and Paul, and how he decided, how he got to the point where he decided, I'm not gonna kick against the goads anymore. Now I'm gonna accept the teachings and try to understand it and see if I can understand it. And that's what he does. After that fall from the horse, he raises blind, goes after the guy that he was going to kill. He is going to the town to kill a person or to persecute, kill, I don't know, but he was going to try to kill him. He gets to that town, just to give like a scenes of the next chapter. So maybe you want to read the book. So he goes to that town and then who is the guy that comes to save him? The guy that he's going to persecute. Ananias. So he goes to the town and he finds Ananias, which is the guy that he wanted to go after and put in prison and probably kill. He is the one that comes, that knew him, knew Paul, knew Saul, knew that he was a persecutor, knew that he killed Stephen, but anyways, he went after him and he helped him recover his vision. That's another story, another like big teaching there. To accept, oh, this guy that you're going to help, Jesus tells, hey, Nancy, you're going to help Adriana, but Adriana, you know, she wanted to kill you, but you're going to help her. Yeah. And then, can you imagine? What? Jesus, are you sure you really want me to go? And yes, he does. So he doesn't kick against the goats. He goes. And that's another teaching for us. But that's like I said, the only sentence that I read from this item here, item number 8 from chapter 9, was um, obedience is the consent of reason. Resignation is the consent of the heart. If you want to read the rest, you're going to see that there's a lot there. Then hopefully I was able to show in Saul's life how is to how we can learn at least a little bit about resignation and obedience. Uh, we are about to finish. I'm sorry I spoke too much, like like all the time. And I thought, oh, today I'm going to finish early. Um, so this next Saturday in Portuguese, we're going to have this a meeting with this friend of ours. He's his name is João Korngold. He's married to Jussara Korngold, which was with us 2-3 weeks ago online. And this weekend he's gonna come, not come, right, virtually be with us, talking about mediumship and how spirits influence our lives. So it's hopefully it will be. It is a very interesting topic, and he really knows a lot, and he likes to talk about this side of spiritism, spirits and mediumship and so on. So he knows a lot about it, and will be very, very interesting. So we'll start at 7 as usual at our website. You can go to our website or to YouTube or Facebook. It will be there as every Saturday. And what else? As Chris always asks us to remember our God at home or gospel at home, that we meet once a week, every at the same time, read a message and think about the message, which is the main goal of it. Is for us to reflect, just like I was talking about Paul and Saul. It's not about the others, it's about myself. So every time we go and talk about it, about the book, we always try to bring the message to us and ask ourselves, how many times did I fall from the horse? How many times have this light shone on me and I didn't answer the call? How many times? Not the other, not Dora, not you two, not no, it's not about the other. It's about my change. That's what Saul took when he fell from the horse. It was not for the companions that were with him. It was for himself. So the gospel at home is the same idea for us to take it for ourselves. Also, what else? I guess that's it for now. Yeah, we are still closed on Saturday, so we have this meeting every Monday. We have the studying group on Wednesday nights, and our meetings on Saturday nights. They're still on online. Hopefully soon, when we have more people are vaccinated and the state decides to really open everything, then we will decide to reopen, which I don't know, hopefully maybe July, when everything is really more like, they are saying that probably July the 4th we will have like most things already starting to be almost completely open, but who knows what's going to happen. But things are getting better. Let's keep protecting ourselves, protecting our loved ones, because this is what we've been doing and learning how to do. And I guess that's it, right? So Hopefully, we will be back next Monday, and in a month from now, we're gonna have another of these meetings in English here at Continue at the same time at 7 p.m. So, for us to finish our night, let's just do a final prayer, thanking the good spirits that were here and are here with us, helping our minds, helping our hearts, not only to understand the message, but also to feel it, so that we can bring this message to life in our words, in our deeds, in our actions. Thank you, Jesus, for trusting in us, for putting in us this strength and your love so that we can keep going and going towards you, towards the light of God. And we would like to thank God for the life that we have and for this love that we are learning to have more and more for Him and for all the others, including for ourselves. May we all have a great week, and may God bless us all, now and always. So be it. So that's it for tonight. Thank you, folks. I hope we see each other soon.